He rolled his eyes and said, "Here we go again." Another jealous girlfriend speech. And when I brought up his female study partner, the words hung in the air between us like a door slamming shut. I remember the exact moment because the room suddenly felt smaller, colder. My hands were still wrapped around a mug of tea that had already gone cold, but my fingers tightened around it anyway. On his phone screen, a message notification flashed again, her name lighting up the glass. He didn't even try to hide it anymore. I looked at him, really looked this time. The lazy smirk, the bored expression, the quiet confidence of someone who thought he'd already won. So I said calmly, "You're right. Last one?" He shrugged like it meant nothing and walked past me toward the door. What he didn't notice was the silence that followed. Because while he thought the argument was over, I was already dialing a number, one phone call, and by the time he realized what I'd done, the ground beneath his perfect little lie had already started to crack. I had been with him for almost 3 years, long enough to recognize the difference between honesty and performance. His name was Ryan, and from the outside we looked like the kind of couple people expected to last. Shared study sessions, late-night coffee runs, quiet laughter in library corners. But relationships don't always break loudly. Sometimes they erode in silence. Ryan had a talent for making doubt feel like my fault. If he came home late, I was overthinking. If I noticed unfamiliar names lighting up his phone, I was insecure. And when this new study partner suddenly started appearing in every conversation, he acted like the idea of questioning it was ridiculous. The truth is, I wasn't jealous. I was observant. I noticed the small things most people ignored. The way he angled his phone away from me. The way he suddenly cared more about his appearance before group study nights. The way my concerns were always dismissed with that same tired eye roll. For a long time, I let it go. Not because I believed him, but because I wanted to believe the version of us that used to exist. But something inside me had changed recently. I wasn't the girl he could brush aside anymore. And the call I made that night wasn't emotional, impulsive, or loud. It was careful. And very, very deliberate. The weeks before that argument were full of small moments most people would have ignored. Ryan started mentioning her casually like it meant nothing. "Emily helped me with statistics today." Or, "Emily and I are reviewing notes after class." Her name slipped into conversation the way background noise does. Constant. Easy, almost practiced. But the details never lined up. One night he came home smelling faintly of a perfume that definitely didn't belong to me. When I glanced at him, he simply tossed his keys onto the counter and said, "Group study ran late." Another evening, we were sitting on the couch when his phone buzzed again. The screen lit up between us for a split second. "Emily, miss you already." He flipped the phone over so quickly it almost looked rehearsed. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse him. I just watched. Ryan mistook my quiet for weakness. He began making little jokes about it. "Relax," he said one night with a smirk. "Not every girl talking to me is competition." Another time he laughed softly and added, "You know, jealousy isn't a great look." Each comment was small, almost playful on the surface, but they stacked up slowly, like cracks spreading across glass. And Ryan never noticed that while he was busy dismissing me, I was quietly paying attention to everything. The moment everything shifted wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost ordinary. It happened one evening when Ryan left his laptop open on the dining table while he went to take a shower. The screen dimmed, but a message preview appeared before it locked. "Emily, don't worry. She'll never find out." For a second, I just stared at the words. My chest didn't tighten. My heart didn't race. Instead, a strange calm settled over me. The kind that comes when confusion finally turns into clarity. All the small pieces I had been collecting, the late nights, the turned phones, the dismissive smirks, slid into place like the last move of a puzzle. Ryan hadn't just been lying. He had been confident that I would never do anything about it. I closed the laptop gently and sat down at the table, listening to the steady sound of the shower running down the hallway. Steam drifted under the bathroom door while the house stayed otherwise silent. For the first time in weeks, I stopped wondering if I was overreacting. I wasn't, and more importantly, I realized something else. I didn't need another argument. I didn't need proof thrown in his face. What I needed was distance, and one carefully placed phone call. That night, when he rolled his eyes and mocked me, the decision was already made. Ryan believed my silence meant I would eventually forget. That was his mistake. While he was busy playing the part of the careless boyfriend, I started paying attention to the practical things that held our lives together. The apartment lease was in my name because my credit had been stronger when we moved in. The internet, electricity, and most of the shared subscriptions were also registered under my account. Ryan had always joked that paperwork bored him. For the first time, that detail mattered. The phone call I made that night wasn't dramatic. I simply contacted the property manager and confirmed something I had quietly checked weeks earlier. Only my signature was on the lease renewal. The next call went to the service providers. Nothing complicated, just small adjustments. Passwords updated, account access restricted, automatic payments redirected. I wasn't trying to ruin his life. I was just untangling mine from his. Ryan had always assumed stability would stay exactly where he left it, the apartment, the routine, the person waiting for him at home. But stability, like trust, belongs to the person who maintains it. By the time he came out of the shower that night, toweling his hair and humming like nothing had changed, everything already had. He just didn't realize it yet. Ryan didn't notice anything different the next morning. He moved through the apartment the way he always did, barefoot, half awake, scrolling through his phone while coffee brewed in the kitchen. I watched quietly from the table. Around noon, the first shift happened. The internet suddenly disconnected while he was in the middle of a video call. I heard the frustrated sigh from the living room. "Did the Wi-Fi go out?" he asked casually. "I'm not sure," I replied, calm. An hour later, he tried to unlock the streaming account on the TV, password error. Then his gym membership app logged him out. Then his parking pass stopped working when he tried to leave the building. Small things, annoying things, nothing dramatic. He finally came back upstairs looking confused, holding his phone like it had betrayed him. "What's going on with all the accounts?" he asked. I slid a folded paper across the table. It was a simple notice from the property manager confirming a lease, update effective immediately. His name wasn't on it. He read it once. Then again, the realization arrived slowly, the way truth usually does. His confident expression faded into something quieter, uncertain. For the first time in a long while, Ryan looked at me carefully and finally understood. The stability he thought was permanent had never been his. It had always been mine. Ryan didn't argue right away. That was the surprising part. He just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the paper like it had rewritten the last 3 years of his life in a few quiet lines. "So, what does this mean?" he asked finally. "It means the lease is mine," I said simply. "And you'll need to find somewhere else." The words weren't loud, but they carried weight. Over the next few days, reality spread through his world faster than he expected. Mutual friends started hearing different versions of the story. At first, Ryan tried to laugh it off, said we'd had a small argument. Nothing serious, but people noticed patterns. They noticed when he suddenly needed a place to crash. They noticed when Emily stopped appearing in his social media photos. And they definitely noticed when the story slowly shifted from, "She's overreacting," to "Things just got complicated." Meanwhile, something inside me settled. I wasn't trying to destroy his reputation. I didn't call anyone to explain what happened. I didn't need to. The truth has a way of surfacing through ordinary details. And that's why moments like this matter. Not because revenge feels good for a second, but because sometimes the quiet decision to stop accepting disrespect changes the entire balance of your life. The apartment felt different after Ryan moved out. Not quieter exactly, just clearer. Like a room after a window has been opened and the air finally moves again. For the first few days, I kept expecting tension to return. Another argument, another sarcastic comment tossed across the room. But none came. The silence that replaced it wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. I rearranged a few things slowly over the following weeks. His extra chair disappeared from the dining table. The closet suddenly had space again. Small changes, but each one reminded me that the life I was living now actually belonged to me. Friends asked questions, of course. I answered simply, it just wasn't working anymore. That was enough. I didn't need dramatic explanations or public victories. Ryan eventually moved on with his own life. And so did I. The difference was that I no longer carried the constant weight of proving my worth to someone who had already decided not to value it. Looking back, the phone call I made that night didn't just end a relationship. It ended a version of myself that tolerated being dismissed. And sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't destroying someone else's world. It's quietly rebuilding your own, without them in it.